Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to FPL Game Week 2. Last episode, I hadn't played a single second of this game. Oh my god, right, I'm not bothering with all of that. And this week, we were one player away from absolute disaster. This is what my team looked like at the end of game week 1, amassing a respectable, I guess, 61 points. And I asked you guys at the end of that episode who I should substitute and put into this team for game week 2. And you all said nothing, because I haven't been uploading and no one's watching at the minute. So it was all down to me. It was a lone mission this week on my own to decide the fate of this team, and we got away with it by the skin of our teeth. And this is a massive gamble. This could be the biggest gamble of the series so far. So let's look at this week's team, and I'll walk you through the decisions I had to make. In between the sticks, we started off with a bit of a howler of a decision. I decided to substitute in Alisson for Raya, simply because I thought Liverpool had an easier fixture at the weekend. It was Arsenal versus Villa, and considering how that went last year, I thought it was a high probability that Aston Villa were at least going to get a goal or two, and maybe even a result at home versus Arsenal. So I thought it would be better to leave Raya on the bench and put in my guy Alisson, the best looking keeper in the Premier League, to rack up those points. And that proved to be wrong. Alisson got us 6 points for showing up and keeping a clean sheet, but Raya, all the way on the bench, ended up getting us 10 points. So could have done with those extra 4 points, I can't lie, and doesn't set a great tone for this week when the first decision you make is wrong. Then we move on to the defense, and this is where the shuffling of the pack started to happen. We kept with Alexander-Arnold and Gvardiol, but then I needed to shuffle the pack. Last week, we had a bit of a horror show picking Kwanzaa, who was hooked off at half-time. I think he picked up 1 point. And next to him was Saliba, who got 6 points. Now, many of you, the majority of the 18 people that watched last week, many of you probably would have thought that I'd substitute Kwanzaa for a defender that might have racked up a clean sheet, but you would be wrong. I actually decided to substitute Saliba. Now, this was because I'm just starting to think that my defense needs to be more forward thinking. How can we get goal contributions out of this defense? And I thought, as good as Saliba is, I don't think he's going to be picking up much points apart from clean sheets. And again, like I said, I was banking on Villa getting at least a goal at the weekend. So I decided I'm going to substitute Saliba and go for Pedro Porro. Overall, in the long term, Pedro Porro is going to be more valuable to us than Saliba. Again, this is showing my inexperience. If I was an absolute nerd, right, that licked spreadsheets, maybe I could get up like how many points Porro got last season compared to Saliba and see which one. No, we're not doing long-term investment analysis. No, I'm going for the gut. I'm going for Pedro Porro. It will be what it will be. And instead, we substituted Kwanzaa for Walker-Peters, just because, well, actually, can I be honest with you guys? This is one of 2 confessions. The bigger one's coming later. The first confession being I didn't substitute Kwanzaa. It did it for me. I didn't know that was a thing. I wasn't planning on using Walker-Peters much this year because why would you? But apparently he got a week this week and he picked us up 2 points. So a valiant effort from him. So overall, with the 5 at the back, it wasn't looking great. And then we move on to the midfield, and it almost got even worse. Garnacho. We need to speak about Alejandro, because last week, although he got an assist, he did miss an open net. And this week, he only played 25 minutes and did, and I think this is the term, fuck all. Picking up 1 point for his 25 minutes of football. I feel uncomfortable with it. You feel uncomfortable with it, but he's there, okay? And alongside him, Minter, who I actually do have more faith in than his points suggest. I think he is going to rack up some goals for Brighton, and Brighton do look good this season. And although he is very, very raw, and a couple of his touches and decision-making against United at the weekend could lead me to doubt him, long-term investment, I think Minter is going to is going to cook for us. And I think he's going to be a good choice overall. And he's maybe just not showing it just yet. So apart from the two stinkers either side of them, in the midfield, we actually got some points for once, with Gordon and Smith Rowe both picking up 10 points. I think for the identical performances, points for showing up, getting a goal, and some bonus points. And I think, if I'm right in saying, yeah, Smith Rowe got the exact same thing with a win over Leicester, which I actually hadn't really clocked. That's a pretty good win for Fulham. But this comes my second confession. I am fiending for an Odegaard, right? I think that Odegaard needs to be in this team somehow. I don't know how I do it. I don't know how we shuffle the pack so we get Odegaard. But one of these four midfielders needs to leave because we need to get Odegaard, and he's going to contribute towards a massive decision that we have to make at the end of this episode, so stick around. But before we get to that, we need to talk about the strikers. On the one hand, we have Isak, who scored a monstrous 2 points. He got 2 points for arriving in the South Coast and playing against Bournemouth. It was a shocker, but we'll ignore that, right? Because then we get on to the real man, the man of the episode, Erling Haaland, who saved us from disaster. I said I'm not going to do any of the research. I'm not going to be on FPL Twitter or watching advice videos, no. But I did get a little bit of murmurings of people trying to be different and not captain Haaland. I might have not played this game very much, but I'm not thick. And I was going to captain Haaland every day of the week, because playing against Ipswich, they're only their second game back in the Premier League at home. It was a no-brainer. And the big blonde Norwegian delivered with a monstrous 34 points. So you can sort of look at it either way. Either Haaland saved us from a disaster class this week of ones and twos scattered throughout the team, or you could say, due to Haaland, if only a couple of decisions went our way, we could have had a monstrous week. But overall, for this week, we accumulated 81 points, which is 20 points, I think, better than last week. But Haaland did get 20 more points this week. So it kind of was the same despite the subs and transfers. So it wasn't great. But now we need to make a huge decision. There are two options for you. Either A, we stand still. We do not touch it. Maybe a potential couple of substitutions in there. Araya coming in for Alisson might be a smart move. But overall, we leave it be and we stack the transfers to potentially get an Odegaard into the team at roughly game week 4 or 5. Or option 2, and this is a massive gamble. This could be the biggest gamble of the series so far. Do we go for a massive transfer and forget Garnacho? He's making us all uncomfortable, but just don't look at him. Don't look at him, and instead substitute an Isak. I know he's going to rack up points later on in the season, and I know it's a rash move, it's a big move, but do we substitute Isak? While we're here, we got time, let's see what we could get instead of Isak. So, because Isaac was 8.5 million, and I had a little cheeky 0.5 in the bank, we have 9 mil to spend, and we could potentially go for an Ollie Watkins. Now, who are Aston Villa playing at the weekend? This is important. Ooh, away at Leicester. Interesting. Or, and now this might be even more tasty, do we go for a Kai Havertz? Now, again, similar to Odegaard, if we didn't want to save up for an Odegaard, I think Havertz might have a similar goal return this year, an assist return. I think he contributes quite a lot to this Arsenal side in terms of FPL points. And potentially, we could forget the Odegaard idea. We can instead go for a Havertz for the Isaac and just bank on Arsenal having a good game against Brighton. So you guys decide. Please, if you got to the end of this video, it will take you 2 seconds. Give me what you think I should do with this team, and come back next week to see how we got on game week 3. Potential 100-pointer on the line. And did we go for Havertz or Watkins? I'll see you next week.